interpreter with the Huron-Clinton Metroparks. Today we're going to be heading out on the trail and seeing what's going on in the springtime ecosystems here at Indian Springs. I hope you'll join us. Our first location on the hike is we're going to go down to the pond level of the Environmental Discovery Center. On our pond level, we have the underwater pond viewing dome. So we're going to check out what's going on under the pond today. Our pond dome, it is a large underwater acrylic dome, and it's cleaned periodically. So right now our pond dome hasn't been cleaned since November, and it is now April. So you're going to see a lot of algae that has developed on the outside of the pond dome, and you know, really, although it's not the most pretty thing, it really gives us a good clue that our pond is doing what ponds do. It's called primary productivity. We have a variety of fish that live in the pond dome here, including bluegill, largemouth bass, a couple of walleye, some pumpkin seed, a couple bowfin have been seen here. So we have a variety of different fish. They can be anywhere they want in this 1.7 acre pond. So they don't always come up to the pond dome itself. We may or may not see any fish today in the pond. Now, if you are a student that has been on field trips here, maybe coming out in the winter, you're probably going to notice that it might be greener right now than what you've seen in the past when you've visited our park. You know, as the temperature warms up and as the sunlight angle becomes more direct in our part of the world, we see the algae increase here in the pond. So we've seen an increase in primary productivity. We also have a hallway, and it has windows that face out into the pond. So here we've got another bluegill. It's hanging out under the pond, a little bit scared of the camera right now. You can see it's kind of swimming away a bit. We are now at the farthest window in the hallway at the pond dome. It's going to seek some safety in this root structure at the edge of the window here. These underwater tree roots of a stump with the roots attached, they provide some safety for smaller fish that might need to be concerned about larger predator fish. Here we are with a largemouth bass. This fish, it's more torpedo shaped, and it has this line that extends down the length of its body, and that gives us a clue that it is a largemouth bass.
Here we can see through the algae there's a black crappie that is swimming near this log.
Here we are now getting the view of the Discovery Pond from above. Well, here we are now. We've exited the Environmental Discovery Center building, and we're over here at the MARSH pond. You can hear there are lots of red-winged blackbirds singing in the background. This is a location where lots of students did some ecosystem investigations earlier this year when it was still snowy out. Let's take a look. Now we're going to move in here on one side of the pond. There's actually not a path to this side, but I'm going to walk carefully off the trail. And I wanted to point out that at this point in the spring, lots of reptiles and amphibians are now out of hibernation. And on this log that you can see, we've got several turtles that are basking. Let's see how close if we can get up to see them. And here you can see how clear the water is. We can see right down to the bottom of the pond here. Mostly we've got leaf litter and plants that are down from last year. We're gonna walk up into the prairie on the nature trail now and see what we can find. Well, we've arrived at the Outwash Overlook. This is the spot, highest elevation on the trail that you can reach while at the Metropark. With it being early April, we aren't seeing a lot of the warm season plants developing, you know, their leaves to a great extent out here in the prairie. But I did want to point out that we can see these beginning shoots of this year's growth for some New England asters. Now here we are. You might remember seeing this plant. I called it wild raspberries in the past. If you've been out at the park before on an interpretive hike. This plant has some thorns on it, helps protect it from herbivores. If you've been out here in the park in the winter time, you would have seen this without any green whatsoever. But now at the end of April, we are seeing that the new leaves are developing. The plant has taken up kind of a red color in the stem, and we know that's because there's more sap kind of flowing through the branches of this plant at this time. Now here we are coming up to an oak opening. Oak openings are areas of oak trees that you will find in an otherwise mostly grassland area. If you think of Oakland County, our county where we're located, it got its name actually because there were lots of oak trees that really impressed the first settlers here. Oak openings can provide a great food source for different animals such as turkeys or deer when their acorns fall to the ground. They also, for early settlers, provided refuge from the sun when you're out in the hot fields during the day. Now I've had to look pretty hard to find any acorns from the oak trees. This is like the one little acorn that I could find. Over the winter, acorns are a huge food source for turkeys and deer, so mostly they've been probably consumed by those animals at this point in the season. We've arrived over here at our lower pond in Fenn. Wetlands this time of year are a great spot for wildlife. You can probably hear all the birds behind me. We're gonna go take a look and see if we can see any additional wildlife that is in the water. Maybe we've got some beginning nesting activity for some of the fish. You can see this area where the plants and a lot of the sediment has been moved away. Check out these catkins that have developed on the willow. They're kind of this fuzzy look at the beginning of when they're in bloom. As time progresses, we're going to see lots of pollen that develops on them. Let's see if we can take a look over here at this plant. These ones here have lots of pollen on them. As we look out across the pond, You can continue to hear lots of birds. Take a look in the water. You're going to see some fish. Got a lot of bluegill around today. Now if we look at this red twig dogwood, it's this really bright red plant that I've got growing in the frame here. We have some definite signs that deer have been in the area browsing on the plants. Now if we look at the very tip of this branch, you're going to see some areas that where a deer has nibbled. And when deer nibble on something, when they take a bite of a branch, the result is that part of it ends up looking very jagged and raspy. And that's what we've got going on here. We've arrived to the first bridge that you can reach at the Huron River. If you look around, you can definitely see a lot of signs of spring. Notice all of the green that has developed on this landscape. You might remember seeing the bloom of these flowers that looked like purple potatoes back in the winter, sticking out of the snow with a little point on them. Now those are starting to fade away. They've turned brown, they're starting to die off, and it's time for the leaves to come out. Got some other colors too. Right here, in the bright yellow, this is called marsh marigold. One of the best signs of spring. It's bright yellow, and it grows right where the soils are very saturated, especially near the edge of the river. Look carefully in the mud here. It looks like we have some lines in the mud, and it looks like those are probably the result of worms that have been in the area. I'm also looking for signs of animal footprints. And perhaps over here, the textured area underneath the branches, it looks like we've had some sort of footprints there, but they've been washed away mostly by changing water levels. Here's some round-lobed hepatica that has begun to bloom. It's one of our spring ephemeral wildflowers. Here's another spring ephemeral wildflower. It's growing really near the skunk cabbage, but it isn't attached to those large green leaves on the left-hand side of it. It's a separate plant that's that light purple color. It's called cress. Here are some leaves of a plant called putty root orchid. Here we've got a trout lily that's blooming. It's yellow. It's got these green and purple leaves. This flower here is called spring beauty. You can see it has these long, slender leaves and kind of the pink on the inside of the flower here. This is a welcome sign that spring has arrived in the swamp forest. Look at how green the swamp is. We've got tufts of sedges. We've got spice bush in bloom. We've got some wildflowers that have developed and are blooming. It is just a great time of year to be in the Huron Swamp. Here we are at the vernal pond. You can see it's full of water. Not a lot of wildlife here today. Well, we're back at the Environmental Discovery Center. As you can see, there are lots of spring developments in all of our ecosystems. It's a great time to be on the trail. Thank you for taking a walk with me virtually. I hope you'll visit us at the Environmental Discovery Center in the future. Our park is open 7 days a week, and we encourage you to come out and see all of the unique things in our ecosystems for yourself.